I'm really happy to be here to see you, by the persons we saw online, to see them face to face now today. I have to admit, I got a bit nervous this morning when I realized that my talk is too long for 30 minutes, so I have to spontaneously shorten it. And if it's not your mother tongue, it's a bit, so I will try to not get confused and but to be on time. That's why I have my little time counter here. So as introduced, I will talk about a current research project I do with a group of people. We named ourselves CRIMSO, Criminal Justice Social Work Research Group. We are based in Switzerland. Well, I will talk about a project we're doing on social work in carceral settings. And I put the work in, I don't know how it's called in English. Brackets, yes, thank you, because we are interested in more large sense in what's the social in prison and who does the social. Is it only social work, or are there other professionals who do as well the social, and where is the social, and what contributes it? So that's why it's in brackets. So just a few words about our research group. It's not just the two of us, we're 5 persons. We're working bilingual in German and French. And we are interdisciplinary, so we are geographers, sociologists, and social workers. That explains also a little bit why Marina Richter, who's the project leader, she's geographer, and she introduced a bit this new materialism, post-humanist perspective. And she said it would be cool to try this on the setting of prisons. And then we were very happy when we saw that in social work also since several years. There's been a debate about posthumanism and so on. So I'm happy to bring these two things together here. We did last year, we finished the exploratory phase of the project. So it's 4 years. And now we are just preparing the second phase that will be that will allow us to deepen and to widen the focus. So to deepen to more intense in time. And until now, the focus was really on the social workers, and then we will widen it up to the whole prison staff and the incarcerated people to know their thoughts and views and vision and feelings about the prison. The aim of my talk today is on the one hand to give you a little insight in what we found in our data or how we got our data with our perspective and what we found, and also to share some thoughts about what we think, what it brought in our thinking to approach prisons with this post-humanist materialist perspective. It's no, what do I have to do?
Not sure this one works. Let's just restart.
It was just not hard enough. Just didn't push hard enough. So our approach is inspired by the philosophy of the French thinker Deleuze, and more in general by critical posthumanism, as I have already said. The debates that have emerged since Deleuze, mostly in co-authorship with Félix Guattari, developed his way of conceiving the world, have been vivid, and there is a large production of inspiring texts to read and to struggle with as well. But to keep with a concise focus in this presentation, I will only refer to Deleuze and not to the whole literature and philosophy we were inspired by. So Deleuzean philosophy breaks in many ways with what we could call a traditional way of conceiving the world, so the ontology, and therefore also has important methodological implications, so the epistemology. So in fact, we'll see that we cannot distinguish ontology from epistemology, as both are intrinsically linked and should rather be thought of as an anti-epistemology, as Karen Barad put it, as some of you might know. So in which ways did Deleuzean thinking break with traditional philosophy, and how does this link to researching the prison? The major shift is towards a thinking of immanence and or becoming. So while traditional philosophy and most social science theories based upon conceive of the social work as something that is, or that has to be discovered, or that has an essence, Deleuze proposes the idea of immanence, and this means that nothing exists in itself, but always has the potential to come out of the entanglement with other things. So I will concentrate on three elements, or on three conceptual notions that derive from the notion of becoming. So the first is the rhizome. So social structure is replaced in the thinking by the model of the rhizome. And replacing structure, or by doing so, this has several implications. I will mention two. So the first one is it opens the understanding of a topic, situation, or problem from something clearly delimited to more fluid conceptions and towards less clear-cut distinctions. So we will illustrate this, we wrote it together. So this with the notion of the inside and the outside of the prison. So which at first sight seems to be very clear concepts, inside the prison, outside, but we will see that this is not so clear sometimes if we think in a different way. So, and it points towards the entanglement of things, humans, non-humans, ideas, etc. So we will illustrate how different elements, humans as well as non-humans, mutually affect each other and let situations emerge. So that was also already mentioned by Heather. So this emerging of things and non-humans and humans. The second point is this unity of mind and body. So the separation of mind and body, usually coined as a principle of Cartesian philosophy, had profound effects on conceiving and understanding the world. And we approached the prison as a space and place in multisensorial ways. So it is not only by the mind that the prison is perceived and understood, by incarcerated people, by the staff, and by us as researchers as well. But there is a multiplicity of sensorial ways to perceive the prison, so also bodily and not only cognitive. So, and the third point is that is centering the human. So if we understand the world, in our case, the prison and the elements that constitute this as entangled, also with elements that we usually do not connect to the prison, as we conceive them as outside the prison, so they are not part of it, we could normally think. But if we include this, then it becomes clear that we also need to descend to the human. And it is not humans alone that make up what the prison is about. It is humans entangled with walls, fences, spaces, places, rules, etc. So that's just our theoretical anchor. So, and as I said, this had also implications on the methodology. So I will just have a few words on this post-qualitative inquiry. With my things. Oh my God. So coming back to the statement of Deleuze that is, or Barat is onto epistemological terms. We also have to show you a bit what this meant for us on a methodological way or epistemological way. There are inspiring writings on post-qualitative methodologies from Elizabeth St. Pierre and Carol Taylor. Well, you know, as you're and while they rightly criticized that the Deleuzian or post-humanist inspired research cannot just stick to qualitative methodology, so it's not just the qualitative, but you also have to go beyond the human as the sole way of approaching the research topics and but we also have to state that that we should not forget about the qualitative methods, but there's another way of embedding it in what we see and what we do. So we therefore developed a methodological approach that uses qualitative methods while taking into account this post-humanist thinking. So this means that we conduct, well, we do observations, mostly shadowings, we do interviews, we collect documents, and use visual methods such as mapping to grasp the spatial and material experiences of people in a multisensorial way. So but these methods, but this means for us that we blur the divide between the researcher and participant and aim to having an active role in the prison, but by organizing workshops, participating in leisure activities, and the notes from observations and participations focus less on the content, what is said and what is done, but also include the feeling and the atmosphere and the material and immaterial things that are appearing and disappearing. And so our notes always include ourselves as well. So in a particular way, how we are affected and what is our experiences, so we don't try to separate our effects and emotions from it, but really to make use of it in our data and in our analysis. So we explicitly use our affectation to approach the field. And finally, also we operate with a method toolkit. So we have these qualitative methods that we use, but we don't have this plan, we stick to it, but we really try to have these tools we have and then to really adapt to the emerging situations that come in, also from the entanglement from us as researchers in the field. So before going to the data, I will briefly say something about social work in Swiss prisons, as this is very different from country to country, and maybe to allow you to understand better what I'm talking about and to compare it maybe with the experience or what you know about prisons in your field of criminal justice and the penal system. So basically social work, or the place of social work, is defined in the law in two articles of the Swiss Criminal Code, well, directly or indirectly. So the first one is that Article 75 says that execution of sentences must encourage an improvement in the social behavior of the prison inmates. Well, that's not my translation, that's the official Swiss translation. And in particular, their ability to live their lives without offending again. So their social work sees a role for this social behavior and this training and everything, but it's not only social work, but the whole prison staff is involved in this mission. And the other one, Article 96, says that the cantons, so it's every canton, so state, has to organize its prisons based on the federal law. But the cantons, they shall guarantee the provision of social assistance, so social assistance in terms of counseling, advice, support for whatever they need during the time in prison. So, and that's also where that's really the core mission of how social work, above all in French-speaking Switzerland, base their right to be in prison on. So, but this is the legal basis, the one side, and then we discovered during several years researching in Swiss prisons that social work is structurally very differently embedded in prisons. And so we realized that on the one hand, we saw that on the one hand, there are this, what we call centralized, no, not we called it in an interview, person put it like that. There are centralized social services that function like a separate unit in prison, and who are there and they are part of the prison. But they provide the social counseling, and they have contact with the incarcerated persons on demand of the person. When she needs something, she asks for an appointment, or if it's needed for the sentencing procedures, if they have to write a report on the person with regard to conditional release or something like that. And there is this other model of an integrated social service where social workers are integrated in the living units, also the groups of incarcerated people, where they have the offices in these groups, where they do their paperwork, and they participate like in everyday activities, meals, leisure time, etc. And they also do security tasks like opening and closing the cells. So they have very close contact in this model. So, and you will see now, this is very structure based. So that's how up to now we conceived of social work in Swiss prisons. So they are on this place in the hierarchy of the prison. They do that. They have those responsibilities. And so our approaching prisons differently helped us to also get away of this structure, but to see it in a different way. And that's what I found very interesting, to not think of how they are put in the structures and so on, but to see it more largely, also outside, inside, outside prison. Maybe before really going to this, I would just say a few words, because I did the research in a so-called, we named it open prison. I don't know if you have something like that in your countries as well. Switzerland, you have the closed ones, also the high security, but then there are the open prisons where, well, they are still prisons, but they have a lot less of fences and constraints. Normally people, the only part of the prison is with a fence around it, and all the where they have to work during the day, that's not fenced normally, so they go outside and inside, and they have a lot of unaccompanied, I don't know how you call it in Europe, but the translation I found in the criminal code is unaccompanied release on temporary license, where they have the right to go for 48 hours out of prison and come back. And also inside the prison, they have a lot of liberties too, but it's only for people who don't have risk to escape from the system. So that's also very special to understand the thing. So I will now present 2 examples of how we developed, so inspired by this Deleuzian thinking, so place-based and rhizomatic perspectives in our material. And wait, I have to. So I did a little painting here. I don't know if you see it very well, but that's our mapping, and I often find it more, I have more access to painting myself. Sorry, I have to move a little bit here. So what you see, this is like this black are the buildings of the prison, and the red one is this condensed part of the security where you can close doors and open it. So there's a little part outside, and the green one, they are the working areas, like working with wood, occupation therapy, also for those who are not able to really work. Another word, joinery, I don't know if it's working with wood, like doing a little thing. So, and machine there, because they have a farm, that's far there. And so here they're repairing the machines and everything. Here we have a garden center and horticulture. So it's really a waste area around the prison where they work, where they move. They're part of the prison, and the fenced part is only this one. So maybe in Switzerland, incarcerated people are forced to work. They so I want here it's even more red. So this is like an intense support ward. That's that to people can be there for a certain time if they are not fit to deal with this open space here, because people can move around until 10 o'clock in the evening here in this area if they want. And here are the cells, and here's the health service. They are inside this fenced part, and here's the security and care unit. The yellow one, so they are at they can be approached from incarcerated people from inside. So in the social service, it's here. They are here in this part, so they are outside the fenced inner part, so the social service offices. And once and only incarcerated person have to get an appointment. They get in a letter in the mailboxes, they check it up here, then they have the appointment, then they can come to the certain time to the social service, to social workers. And once a week for 1 or 2 hours, this door is open so people can move freely from inside to the social work offices. And social workers, yeah, I said the offices are outside the fenced part, and if they move, that I realize they don't move much inside the fenced part. If they need something of a person, if they want spontaneously in contact, they go to the workplaces. But they avoid going in there to the cells or to this semi-public space here, the court, where people can move around, because they say it's like the intimate places of the incarcerated people, so they stay outside of it. So I found this very interesting to see, also to see where do people move and where do they not move. Like health service, it's inside, the school is inside, so the teacher, and they move around there, and the security guards, but social work mostly stays outside only if an emergency or something. So the places where they are rather outside or in a partly outside, because it's well, this is the real inside of the prison, and then you have the outside that's still prison, and then you have further away and outside, but still under the prison rules. And then you have the real outside when you're out of the system. So that was very interesting for us to discover that there are different gradations and levels of inside and outside, and not just the prison walls are the inside outside. So, and they have also a lot of leisure activities. He's not a social worker properly, but I counted him as a social worker. He does a lot of to learn or to make people experiencing good use of free time. So they go outside. So he's there normally, and then he goes out with them to the soccer field. They do bike tours. They go by car to museum, to swimming pool, to mountain hiking, and a lot of things like that, several times a week and also on weekends. So he also goes outside with the persons. And then I thought, yeah, but social workers are only here, but they don't ignore completely this inner part. And then I saw, okay, I have to distinguish two different types of place. There are the places where they are physically, and then there are I call it mental places, what they talk about. Then the places they talk about, they are, on the one hand, that's the not reachable outside places where they have to organize something for persons who are not yet allowed to go out. If they're just coming in, and then you have to organize storage rooms or something like that. They are talking about actual life in prison, but even if they are not inside, they're talking with the people about how are you feeling comfortable? Are there any problems at your workplace? Do we have to manage something? So they are a bit like managing care and control from a general view on the prison. And then the outside is place for reintegration. As I said, for the leisure time activities, they're going outside to be outside, and I try to do is these mental places. They are mostly outside with the persons. They are allowed to go like to learning programs where they're going alone, but train 2 hours to go to the learning program and going back. Or they have unaccompanied release, as I said, and normally they have to prepare this release before. They have to have a program, exactly what to do, when, with whom, and so on. And then you have to come back, and then they talk about how it was for them. Maybe I also have to say they're specialized on substitution programs for drug addiction. So often it's they talk about how did you deal with your addiction outside? Did you consume something or not, and so on. So they talk about these places that are outside, but they are not there physically. And what I tried to do here, prison is a high control room, and so control diminishes when they the way they are, and trust has to increase. So social workers are working a lot with trust in this context. And trust is the second, I just have to think, I have to say something else. No, I think, I emphasize this trust because that's the second point I want to show you what we saw. So one time I could go with this leisure time educator, how you call him, I did with him an activity. And we went on a nature walk. Well, that's in a mountain region. So there are the mountains, here are the mountains, here are the mountains. So went up high, halfway up the mountain, and we did a walk there in nature. And after some time, we came to a point where we could look down in the valley, to see the prison. And maybe now you might think this is the prison. Well, this is a prison, but that's not the prison I talk about. That's a closed prison next to it. So this is the prison that I've been for. And here you see like the farm, the soccer field, the gardens, and the workshops around. And here is this closed part. And we look down. I know I have to say something before I forgot. About our effectiveness as researchers. So when I was in this prison, I was doing several days of observation, and I felt something like there is trust somewhere. So there's trust in the air, but I couldn't say it, I couldn't do it, but I felt something that I said it's, there is something, and it was the strongest was when I was in this activity where I thought this person, he's going alone with 8 prisoners, alone on a mountain hike sometimes. How could he? And I thought that he against them, or he has 7 persons against him, and then I realized no, there is it's not against, but it's together doing something outside that's the more important and not the against, and that there is this trust that nothing will happen from persons. And we wanted to be able to describe it a little bit more and to go deeper in it, to communicate it as well. What is this trust that we feel, that is the atmosphere? And there are some several theoretical concepts about atmospheres, and that they are not just what is between humans, but that all the space and things around influence the atmosphere that emerges of a situation. And so there we were on this walk, and we looked down on this prison, and then they started to joke about it. They did a comment, and then the educator said, are you getting homesick for prison? And then they started laughing and joking about it, and it was a impressive situation for me, how they were standing there. So this distance, the prison is down there, and we are up there together, shoulder by shoulder, looking down on it, allowed for sharing the same view on it. And so it's, for me, it was like a temporal alliance between the educated and incarcerated people. Even more by joking about it, they shared this, but looking at it, still awareness of the prison. So they were still aware of the prison and the rules that also count outside, but it allowed something else. So this natural environment around, you have to imagine there are the 3,000, 4,000 meter mountains around there. So this natural environment allows for stepping out of the prison hierarchies we are normally in, and that are really coined by control and mistrust, even if this is quite open. And not only by the staff, but also the incarcerated people. They don't trust the prison staff. But here in this situation, so this other place makes it possible, and also this doing an activity together while talking, so walking and talking makes it possible to have other experiences. Yeah, I think it will fit. That also impact then the inside of the prison, where they still have, where just get back to this thing. And then the same day they normally do, after doing their activity outside, they go to this gas station shop to have refreshment and to share soft drinks and ice creams. It was not as dark, but this was summer evening when we were there, and I like this picture. So if we went in there, everybody could choose something he would like to have, and then we stand outside there drinking and having a good moment together. And so this was also sharing normality outside the prison, and so as I said, they had free choice. They were talking mainly about life prior to prison or outside the prison. They really could feel they are not the incarcerated persons, but we are people normally, well, together talking about normal stuff, about something we experienced. And the participants, they also feel, or I thought of, that they feel like they are trusted to act properly in this environment. So not only, so they also feel trust like that. It allows the educator also to say to them, I trust you that you can manage this situation outside, and but also observe you how you act in this situation. And then there was this interesting situation when a coin came in the situation. It was on the ground, and one participant, he picked it up. I think it was 1 franc or even less. And he picked it up, and then again, they joked about it. They said, oh, I have a coin, but what should I do with it? Because I can't take it inside the prison in my pocket, because then I will go to isolation, in the isolation cell, because this is not allowed. So it reminded the presence of the prison rules, even in this outside, in this normal situation. So it was very interesting, but it allowed for talking about the constraints of the prison together with the educator, and to again joke about it and laugh about it. And it allowed also the participants to prove, so to show we know the rules and we won't do it. So also to show you can trust us. So it allowed, and for us as researchers, it highlighted the impermeability. I talked about inside, outside, but persons can move inside, outside with this activity, but coins can't move inside, outside. That has consequences. So that was for us interesting. So what do the boundaries get let through and what not? And so, and this breach of normality, this was for me, so really this coin that crashed like a bit situation, but it was still happy, but it showed something else. So, and now the last seconds, So back to Deleuze and lessons learned with him. So it really allowed us to sit with them, to question the established understanding of prison as entity, like just the prison. And I showed you social work is so like this and that, and to see so the entanglements that emerge outside, and to see it in a new, not this closed entity of inside outside, but to have a more differentiated and gradations of inside outside, and this awareness of places and objects that allowed us for recognizing the impact of this material environment on these human relations. And for us as researchers, it opened up new ways of doing research and being a researcher, but getting involved in the field. So even if we often in qualitative research, we do things like, it's not so unfamiliar. We struggled also for a while, but what will I be doing differently than we did before with our qualitative research? But being very conscious and really actively using our effects and emotions in the fields as data as well, really allowed us to discover also like these atmospheres of trust that we saw. And now we are, well, as I said, now we are preparing the second phase. And so I'm also very interested in what we will, I think we have some presentations and walking interviews and also on that we will also want to do in the prison. And then, so I hope that I gave you some insights, and I'm very looking